Last night, Canon announced that they're developing their new flagship mirrorless camera, the R3. Now, this is just a development announcement and a quick tease of some of its headline features, so there's a huge amount here that we do not know. But considering how good the R5 currently is, this could be a very exciting camera indeed. As you can see from the body style, this is most likely Canon's mirrorless version of their 1DX Mark III, a flagship stills camera designed for the most demanding photographers doing sports, wildlife, that kind of extremely fast-paced work. Just like the 1DX line, it has the vertical controls and the grip built in, and with pretty much all of the teased features focusing on speed, I'd be very surprised if it doesn't sit in exactly the same kind of place in the market as the 1DX cameras have. The one thing that does put some doubt in my mind about that though is the name. This is the R3, not the R1. We've got the R5, which is quite similar in positioning to the 5D line, then the R6, quite similar to the 6D, but there's no 3D line of DSLRs, so why isn't this the R1? Well, it might just be as simple as they didn't want to clash with Sony's A1 too much in terms of the name, or it might be a hint that they want to introduce an even higher end camera at some point and they're keeping the R1 name for that. Or maybe it's a nod back to the EOS 3 from back in 1998, which we are going to mention again in a minute. So who knows? We'll just have to wait and see. Apart from the vertical grip and the name, there's not much else we can tell from the photo that they've shared. It's got controls on the front that look very similar to the 1DX Mark III, and it has this slightly different textured finish to it, which could be a new grip material, or it could be carbon fiber as a weight saving measure. They do say it has full weather resistance and that it has significantly lower weight than the 1D line, which is of course very welcome, as long as they've managed to keep the build quality similar as the 1DX line, because that was known for being built like a tank. The other thing we know for sure with this photo is that it uses an RF lens mount, just like the R5 and R6, but that's hardly surprising. This will be a perfect camera to pair with their new white RF telephoto lenses, and that's a combination I'm pretty sure we're going to be seeing a lot of at future sporting events. So let's now look at the features which they've teased. First up, we have explosive speed, revealing that the R3 will take the 20 frames a second of the R5 and up it to 30 frames a second with full autofocus tracking and minimal distortion. Again, perfect for sports and wildlife. There's also a small mention in here of the new back illuminated sensor, which is very interesting and a big deal. This is a technology that Sony have been using for quite a few years now in order to get information off the sensor much faster than traditional methods. But Canon have never used it until now. I'd always assumed that this was because of their dual pixel autofocus technology, which is actually part of the sensor design itself. I assumed that they hadn't figured out how to get both working together on one sensor and that was quite challenging. But it looks like they've now cracked it, as they do specify that the R3 has their new generation dual pixel AF2 technology. In fact, the autofocus performance is a huge strength of the R5, so if this is even better and elevated to another level like they say here, that will be very interesting indeed. The R5 already has tracking for humans, cats, dogs and birds, and they're hinting that the R3 now has a new subject as well. So I'm excited to see what that is. But the big part of this announcement that has caught my eye is the next feature. Canon have been rumoured to have been working on a new version of the eye tracking technology, which we actually saw way back in 1998 in that EOS 3 camera. And they've been rumoured to be working on this for a long time. Now, to be clear, we're not talking about the camera tracking the subject's eyes here. We're talking about the camera tracking the photographer's eye actually inside the EVF. So the camera can tell where you're looking and move the autofocus point accordingly, which is just mind-blowing technology. Canon say here, this AF control system has been engineered from the ground up for the 21st century. Imagine the ability to simply select and move the AF point with the look of your eye using the EOS R3's viewfinder. Canon's Eye Control AF offers unparalleled control over autofocus. Now, at first glance this sounds very exciting, but could potentially be a bit gimmicky, the sort of thing that photographers would try out, then say, oh, that's nice, but then turn off and use the normal autofocus controls. But that was exactly our reaction when we heard about the Touch AF button on the 1DX Mark III. And then when we actually used that, we just fell in love. It's probably one of the best ways to control an autofocus point that I have ever used. And Canon wouldn't be putting this eye tracking technology in their flagship stills camera unless they were very confident in it. Autofocus is something that Canon are incredibly serious about as a company, and they normally get it right. So this could be pretty revolutionary technology, and I'm very, very excited to try it out. But there's still, of course, a huge amount here that we don't know. We don't know sensor resolution. Their 1DX line has always been slightly lower res than their 5D line, and that's how they've achieved that shooting speed. But then there's the Sony A1, which is taking the exact opposite approach and giving us 30 frames a second stills with a 50 megapixel sensor. So they might be taking that route as well. We also don't know anything about the video capabilities. It's not mentioned here at all. Both the 1DX Mark III and the R5 have some pretty serious video features. So even if this camera simply matches the R5's feature set, but doesn't overheat while doing it because of its larger body, that's going to be a pretty fantastic option for video work. And we also don't know the price, and we don't know how far away it is from the actual launch, as this is just a tease, of course. Both the Sony A1 and the Canon 1DX Mark III are about the same price, so I wouldn't be surprised at all if this ended up maybe being a little bit higher priced than those, but we'll have to wait and see. And we also need to see what the whole camera can do, of course, to be able to judge that. But one thing's for sure though, this announcement has definitely done its job and well and truly got people's attention. This could be a very exciting camera. We'll of course let you know more when we get more information, but for now, let me know what you think of this announcement in the comment section down below, and I'll see you in the next one.